What up, YouTube? Judges and me back at y'all with another video. So the UFC just announced the White House card, and to be honest, it's alright. It's one of the best main cards in UFC history, but it is still disappointing to think that we could have got Topuria versus Islam, a potential John Jones return, or even a Conor McGregor main event. But this got me thinking, what does the rest of the year look like for the UFC? We are now in March, and we have the Freedom 250 White House card, we have UFC 327, and this sort of lets us know, and we can kind of predict what the rest of the year will look like. What are the main events of each card? What does the International Fight Week card look like? What does UFC 328, the next pay-per-view to be announced, look like? So we'll be going over all that in this video, starting with that very thing, UFC 328, New Jersey. That looks like the location, as it is most times when it's around May or June. And starting things off, the first fight on the main card, Alexandre Topuria versus Bryce Mitchell. This is a big fight, and it's worthy of being on a main card. There's a lot of hype behind it. Maybe the fight itself won't be that good, but then again, these guys are predominantly grapplers, and those often generate some good fights. Bryce Mitchell has that jiu-jitsu, Topuria has the wrestling, and he also has some good boxing as well. So it will be very interesting to see Ilya in his brother's corner, Bryce talking mad stuff in Fight Week, especially looking at the main event. There's also someone very controversial there, but it's a lot of fun. It's a good fight to have. It's on the main card because it'll be at the press conference. So both these guys are up there, and the winner should get a ranked opponent. Both these guys are ranked level kind of guys in the bantamweight division, but a win like this will definitely secure them a fight up the rankings, maybe even into the top 10, who knows. But that's a good fight, I think, to kick off the card. And then this is a fight I'm not too fond of, but the rumors are looking like it's gonna happen, and it's not too bad. Blachowicz versus Guskov 2. They had a fight in November. It was a draw. It was a very good fight, to be honest. And they're running it back. I don't hate it. Guskov is pretty good. Blachowicz is getting a bit older now. And in that fight, I think Blachowicz had the better moments, even though he did get dominated in that second round, arguably a 10-8, and that's the reason it was a draw. But he did look very good in that third round of that fight. So it is not a terrible rematch. It's not a horrible fight to have. And both dudes are somewhat up the rankings. It both makes sense for them to settle the score. And it's good on the main card. So yeah, I don't mind if they run it back. Another fight that's sort of been rumored about, Volkov versus Cortez Acosta. This fight makes sense. But the winner of this should get a title shot, but unfortunately with the heavyweight division, it's sort of hard. You have Pereira and Gane fighting for the interim belt. The winner will fight Aspinall probably later on in the year, which sort of leaves the winner of this to be left out until early to mid of next year, which they'll be waiting around for like 10 months, and who knows what will happen in the division. But both of these dudes seem like they're the best contenders out of the rest of them. Even though Cortez Acosta did lose to Pavlovich, he has been active, and he's been honestly the most interesting thing going on in that division out of everyone else. And Volkov, he's basically on a 7-fight win streak. He beat Cyril Gane, but he got robbed, and Gane, I think, was injured going in that fight, so it is what it is. Still a close fight. The Almeida fight, he won based on damage. Almeida's fucking terrible. But then again, Almeida did lose to Rizvan Kuniev, which isn't... that performance isn't aging well from Volkov. But I think this isn't a terrible fight. Cortez Acosta is going to strike with him. It makes sense. It's been rumored. Put it on. Third from the top. The co-main event, I think, will be Weili going back down to strawweight and trying to get her belt back off Mackenzie Dern. It makes sense. Weili's probably going to win this fight. Dern was like the 5th ranked contender and then won the vacant belt. But it has to be done. It's probably going to get thrown on one of these pay-per-view main events. It makes sense now. And yeah, not horrible, but also not great, but something realistic that the UFC will do. But moving on to the main event, Khamzat Chimaev versus Sean Strickland. This fight, I like it a lot. There's a lot of build-up. There can be good moments at the press conference. Strickland, obviously the UFC probably doesn't love him, especially under TKO and the owners. But Strickland, he does draw. Chimaev does draw. It'll be an interesting main event. This could be a Mavov, but Mavov has literally came out and said he doesn't want to fight Chimaev. And that's not a terrible career choice from him. If he does fight Chimaev, that does blow a title shot. And Chimaev's talking about moving up and down weight classes. He's not been inactive. Maybe he gets stripped of the belt somehow. And Strickland doesn't give a shit. He's coming up. He's a guy that's going to fight anywhere, anytime. He was back in the gym like 2 days after his last fight. And it is sort of a short turnaround for Strickland, but he didn't get injured. He had a very good performance. It makes sense. And for 328, this is the only champion that I could find that would be possible to main event this card. It was going to be Islam, but Islam says he's injured and stuff, so it wouldn't make much sense for him to fight. But this is a good main event. There were rumors this morning that this was in the works, so it's good timing. So yeah, let's run this. UFC 328 main event makes sense. Moving on to 329. Oh, then we have the White House card, Freedom 250. I don't think this is a traditional pay-per-view. I think this is just sort of a fight night type event. It's not really a pay-per-view. So I'll be skipping over that into International Fight Week, UFC 329 at Las Vegas. The first fight on the main card, you know this is going to be a banger. Brandon Royval versus Lona Kavanagh. 3 rounds of an absolute scrap to kick off International Fight Week. Last year we had Royval versus Van. That was, in my opinion, the best fight of that whole year. Let's see it again, bro. Lona Kavanagh, Josh Van Jr., whatever you want to call him, taking the Josh Van storyline. Royval, this fight makes sense to come back to. He got knocked out at the end of last year. So that gives him about, 7 months. Kavanagh just beat Moreno. It lines up with the calendar. It makes sense. It'll be a banging fight to kick off International Fight Week. And that's sort of the theme I'm going for this card. You see the main event. And, yeah. Another fight on this card. Covington versus Wonderboy. Again, not the strongest fight, but you see with the main event, a lot of star power there. They don't really need to have a stacked card, but Covington, a guy that's going to talk a lot of shit, a potential opponent for the guys in the main event. Wonderboy, possibly an opponent for the guys in the main event also, but it makes sense. Unk versus Unk matchup, wrestling versus striking. Covington's a personality, even though he's washed. He can bring some ice to the product. It's a friendly matchup for both of these guys. Makes sense. Not much else to say. Moving on. Another fight on this card. Derek Lewis versus Walter Walker. Again, it's not the strongest fight, but you don't need it. It's knockout versus submission. Either Derek Lewis is knocking this guy's head into the 5th row, or he's getting his ACL torn off his leg. Those are the 2 ways this fight goes. It's a decent fight. It's probably going to happen next, and I think it's going to be on International Fight Week. Moving on to the co-main event. Yair Rodriguez versus Jan Silva. It's a title eliminator at featherweight, it seems. At least depending on what the title picture looks like for the rest of the year. But it's a good fight to make. It's predominantly going to take place on the feet. You have Yair's karate kind of style, unorthodox style, versus Jan Silva's absolute missiles that he possesses in those hands. It doesn't need to be 5 rounds. I think this fight conventionally works as a 3-round fight. I know 5-round fights are better as co-main events, but again, not the strongest fight to have as an International Fight Week co-main event. But in 2024 we had Lopez versus Dan Ige. So you gotta be grateful for what you can get. But the main event, the saving grace of this card, Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz for the BMF title. Take that shit off Charles Oliveira. That he doesn't need the BMF belt. He hasn't exactly earned the title. It was a great performance, one of the best ever, but not a BMF worthy performance. This fight will be a BMF fight. It should be McGregor versus Chandler, but for some reason the UFC absolutely hates Michael Chandler. So this is the fight we're going to get. Maybe it's because Chandler isn't exactly keeping up the pattern in the family that the UFC, or the people that own the UFC, want. But Nate Diaz isn't a bad alternate. Who else is McGregor going to fight? Realistically, like Covington? No, that won't be a fun fight. Nate Diaz, I think, still has a contract in the UFC, or he's at least on good terms with the UFC, so it makes sense. It's a winnable fight for Conor, and if Nate Diaz wins the BMF belt, no one is complaining. The trilogy, they've spoken about it for a decade now, is something that needs to happen. Why not have it on International Fight Week? There's no one really else for McGregor to face. It's a winnable matchup for both guys, and if McGregor does lose this, it's sort of game over for him. But if he wins, it sets him up for some fun matchups. Maybe with Chandler, who knows. But yeah, should be a good fight to headline International Fight Week. It carries the card. McGregor's name, I think last time, when McGregor fought against Cerrone, the co-main event was like fucking Holly Holm versus Raquel Pennington or something outrageous. So at least you have a decent fun card. Not the biggest names though, but still a good International Fight Week. Realistic, it makes sense. Moving on, UFC 330. I have it in Chicago. It was in August last year. It was in Chicago. It could be in any American city, but it makes sense for it to be in Chicago. The co-main event, Valentina versus Natalia Silva. I haven't built the rest of this card because it's not realistic to know what's going to be on a fight night and what's going to be on a pay-per-view 6 months out from a card. So I've just gone with the co-main and main events from now on. But Valentina versus Natalia Silva, it does make sense. It's obviously what's going to happen next. I think Natalia Silva has a good chance to beat Valentina, even though she did get taken down against Rose, and that was a very close fight. I think her striking is very good. I think that was a one-off, but Valentina does have good wrestling. We saw it against Wei Li. She was able to hold Wei Li down, but I think Natalia Silva is very good. She had very good takedown defense going in the Thug Rose fight. But it's a whatever fight. It has to happen. It's going to be a co-main event, like it or not. But the main event, Islam Makhachev versus Ian Gary. I think it is realistic. Ian Gary is by far the most deserving contender. If you don't believe it, check out the video I made on it. But it's a tough matchup for Islam. Ian Gary's 6'3", bro. This isn't like a 5'8" lightweight. This is a whole different level of competition. And Islam did dominate JDM 30-18 on significant strikes, masterclass, 0 submission attempts. But Ian Gary is just harder to take down. Unless you're like Bilal, even Bilal running at him across the cage. Wasn't able to get any damage off, wasn't able to take him down. Ian Gary defended 7 of 7 takedowns, battered Bilal on the feet. And for Islam, it is still a winnable fight. He's still probably the best fighter on planet Earth, maybe, behind Ilya. It is what it is. 330 Abbott is the main event. Moving on to UFC 331. Let's go back to Brazil. Even though the crowds are shocking, let's pretend like the Brazilian crowds are good. September, you'll see why. The co-main event, Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan. Rematch, 5 rounds. Let's run it. It's what's happened next. It's going to be what's happening next. Oliveira, BMF belt. Let's take that shit off him. But we can still do 5-round fights. If he wins, the division's sort of stuck. I'll talk about the lightweight title a bit later, but for Arman, if he wins, he's clearly the number 1 contender. If he's fighting Ilya for the belt or not, who knows, but it does make sense. It's a very good fight to have. The first fight was very close. Arman almost got finished 3 times. He got saved by the bell twice. He just got out of that guillotine in the first round as well. And Oliveira's striking wasn't looking that good that night. And his wrestling has improved since then. And Ahmed's obviously gotten better as well. So this could main event, but it's a 5-round co-main event. No belts on the line. Maybe they could do the vacant lightweight title, perhaps, but I think it'll be a bit too early in the timeline for that. We'll talk about, again, the lightweight title later. But the main event, Joshua Van versus Pantoja. I think Van will beat Tyra, but it could be Tyra versus Van. Tyra versus Pantoja, it doesn't really matter. But Pantoja coming back to get the belt back is honestly massive. Pantoja at this point is borderline top 15 all time. He's borderline in that all-time GOAT conversation. And if he comes back and wins the belt at, 36? 37 maybe? That's super impressive. And Pantoja, honestly, was underrated for so long. Him coming back, he's at that level. Maybe not in terms of stardom, but in terms of, aura. In terms of, how good he is. He's on that level of, Islam, Shamaev, especially when he comes back off injury. There's a storyline there. If Van does defend the belt, the no takedown defense narrative that for some reason he has now will go away. It will be scrap. Pantoja's striking is better than Tyra's. He has a better chin, although Tyra's chin isn't bad, but Pantoja's chin's made out of iron. He has that grit in him. He has decent cardio, but again, it's that grit that pushes him to win fights and makes him an absolute warrior. Makes sense to be a main event in Brazil. 2 Brazilians fighting, main event, co-main event. Let's run that. That should be good. UFC 332 Las Vegas, October. They usually have 2 pay-per-views in October. 1 in Vegas, 1 in Abu Dhabi. So the Vegas one, the co-main event. Let's do it. Nunes versus Harrison. This was probably going to be on the White House. It was meant to be on the January card, but Harrison did get injured. Let's rebook it for Vegas. This could be on the Brazil card too, since Nunes is Brazilian, but to keep it realistic, it's probably going to be in Vegas. So Harrison Nunes, it makes sense. I don't need to talk about it. Harrison coming off injury. This is a realistic timeline to make. And yeah, it is what it is. The main event of that card, Jan versus Merab 3. I hope this fight does come earlier, but Jan is coming off a back injury. He's probably not rushing to get back in there. Merab is taking some time off. And if it's anyone but Merab, that's a joke. I mean, Umar, it's sort of hard the position he's in, because he's not going to get a title shot over Merab. And the UFC might just skip him out for O'Malley. But the problem is he won't be able to fight O'Malley. So by the time that this trilogy gets resolved, maybe it's O'Malley that's jumped him in the rankings. If O'Malley beats Zahabi, and especially if he beats him by knockout, maybe he's next after this. But the trilogy to settle things, it will be a banger. It's going to be a banger. Merab comes to fight every time. Piotr skill is unmatched maybe ever in the octagon. It should be an absolute war in Vegas to settle the trilogy. October. Let's run that. UFC 333 Abu Dhabi. I'm going with Volk vs. Evloev as the main event. It makes sense. Evloev, I think, will beat Murphy. If he doesn't, then it doesn't really make a difference. It'll be Volk vs. Murphy then. But Volk, last time he fought in Abu Dhabi wasn't great. Let's change that tempo. Let's put him against Evloev, the rightful deserving contender. If he beats Murphy, that'll be 20-0. That'll be 5 ranked wins from him. Insane work. And if Volk adds that to his resume, he's knocking on that GOAT title. He is knocking on that GOAT title for sure if he wins this. It's a good fight. It's whatever. It should have a good undercard to it. No one complains about a Volk main event, especially against a 20-0 Dagestani or Chechnyan, whatever. Let's run that. UFC 334. This is where it gets interesting. New York, Madison Square Garden in November as they do it. The main event, Tom Aspinall versus Alex Pereira. It was coming. This fight is guaranteed to happen. Alex Pereira will knock out Cyril Gane in round 1. Everyone knows it. The fact that he is he's 50-50 as an underdog is disgusting. That's disgusting. I think he's a slight favorite, but he's going to knock Cyril Gane's lights out. And main event in MSG, champion versus champion. Who is the baddest man on the planet? It's not John Jones, bro. Get his ass out of here. Let's crown a legitimate heavyweight champion. If Tom Aspinall wins, that is huge for his career. If Alex Pereira wins, dude, GOAT talks are not a thing that we're talking about John Jones and GSP. We're talking about Volk. We're talking about Pereira, Islam, Ilya. The GOAT debate has changed. And this is a massive fight. MSG, it makes sense. As all these fights do. Last fight of UFC in 2026, 335, Las Vegas. Yuri Prohaska versus Magomed Ankalaev. This would be a banger. If Big Mog gets back to the title, if Yuri wins the belt, which I think he will off Oldberg, although this could be Oldberg versus Big Mog or Oldberg versus Mirzakhanov. December isn't really a hot period for the UFC, so it doesn't really matter, but this main event would be sick. Yuri versus Ank. It's been brewing. These guys don't like each other. Big Mog sits behind Twitter talking a lot of smack. Yuri is bringing the fight to him. Hopefully Yuri gets the belt back, and hopefully his first title defense is against Big Mog. I think Ankalaev will probably main event a fight night against maybe Roundtree. Again, the division is so dry at the moment. Like, Roundtree isn't that good. Roundtree's best win is like fucking Jamal Hill. And like Jamal Hill's best win was against like Old Man Glover. Like, the division is so dry that all the star power went to the top with Pereira. He sort of drained the division in a sense, but he does have that legacy though to show for it. But anyway, we got one more to talk about. UFC 336 LA in January. One little bonus fight to kick things off in 2027. The last fight to talk about. Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria. Oh my god. Hopefully this fight happens, bro. Day by day, the excitement still grows for this fight. Hopefully both these guys retain their belts. Ilya is, unless he gets fluked by Gaethje in the worst upset ever, will probably be champion by now. And Islam, hopefully he beats Ian Gary. That's a tough fight, but he's probably going to be a favorite heading into it. He's probably used wrestling, but again, every fight, every moment, even the guys that they beat, like, it changes the debate. The Charles win that Ilya has is so impressive. The way he was able to deny the grappling on the ground, and to see what Charles can do to someone like Max is insane. Charles dominated Max more than Islam dominated JDM on the ground. He had more strikes, he had more submission attempts, he had more control time, he did better on the feet. And if Max and JDM have similar ground game, and Ilya was able to beat Charles better than if Charles was able to beat Max and then Ilya was able to stop Charles, you know, we're talking about a conversation where Ilya's able to handle the ground game. But again, Islam's striking's good. He has good defense, but Islam's a southpaw, which could cause trouble for Topuria. But Topuria can use the inside low kicks and has much better footwork. You know, every day this debate, there's so many more factors to it, and it's the most fascinating matchup of all time in the UFC. Do it at 170, do it at a catch weight, do it whatever weight you want it. Let's get this fight done. This fight needs to happen. It's either basically now or never. If both of these dudes can retain their belts, it has to happen. Even if it holds up the division, strip both of these guys, because the reality is they're probably not going to fight after this matchup. Like, after this, if Ilya beats Islam, he's going to boxing. He's done everything. He's become the GOAT in MMA. And if Islam beats Ilya, on top of all the wins, on top of the Ian Gary win, on top of the JDM win, on top of the Charles, the Armin, the Volk, the Dustin wins, he's done after this. Even if he loses, he's probably done. Same thing with Ilya. If he loses, he's gonna take time off. So it doesn't necessarily need to be for any belt, but we know these guys are the best at their weight classes. We know that they're the two best fighters on planet Earth, perhaps the most skilled fighters and proven fighters of all time. So this fight needs to happen. It makes sense for it to be in January to kick off next year. And yeah, that was the video. It was a fun video to make. After the White House announcement, after 327, we sort of have a grasp of what the year will look like. And these fights, they're realistic, but they make sense. None of these fights are out of place. I'll say it time and time again, these fights make sense. Everyone in the comments doubting me, you're all a bunch of clowns, but I do love you. But yeah, remember, just only a small percent of you are subscribed, so please do me a favor and subscribe. Like the video. You know what we do. That's what we do here. We like, subscribe, we do all that shit, and I'll catch you guys in a bit.